Welcome to Voices of the Vigilant, where we dive deep into the human side of tech. Here, we go beyond the ones and zeros to explore the people, passions, and stories driving the cyber and internet security world. In each episode, we bring together experts, rebels, and innovators from across the tech industry to share their personal journeys, challenges, and victories. And here's your host and rebel in charge at Vigilant Violet, Jess Vachon.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Voices of the Vigilant, a Vigilant Violet podcast. My guest today is Rachel Arnold, Director of Strategic Partnerships at SecureNation. Rachel, welcome.
Thank you so much. This is going to be, we were talking about it in the little pre-show thing that we were doing, that this is going to be a very, how the turntables, if you guys know that joke from The Office. Anyway, that might be just me. Yeah.
No, we all love The Office.
Because I have a live stream that I do that's called the Coffee Table Talks. Jess, you were a guest there. And I do that on a weekly basis. And now I'm a guest on your show. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm like
happy dance.
The happy dance.
Only people on the video are going to see our hands in the air. The rest of you can have to picture it.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So buckle up. We're going to talk about me a lot. Ew.
Yeah. So let's start. What does the Director of Strategic Partnerships do?
So that is the corporate jargony title for the human API. It's the one that we could find that fit the best.
Okay.
So, throughout my career in cybersecurity specifically, I've come up through these conversations with C-suite directors, managers, the analysts, the engineers, right? And my brain is wired in a specific way where I start to notice patterns across these conversations. And it could be things like, these engineers all seem to enjoy playing D&D. Right? Or these analysts are all working on the same problem whenever it comes to automating how their alerts are coming in, right? Or tailoring those alerts. Or these CISOs all seem to feel very isolated on their own islands. They should be introduced to each other. They should have a friendly roundtable once a week, maybe something I can start and then very carefully peel out of, and they can just keep it. That's the human API aspect of connecting people together, which also marries into the Director of Strategic Partnerships role whenever those same elements that I find in human conversations also come out of product strategy, right? Or how a tech stack should actually stack up, how integration should work, things like that, to help strategize those sorts of things into a really robust cybersecurity program for the clients that I serve, as well as being able to leverage those relationships in a way to negotiate or get some add-ons maybe that are really necessary, or to take advantage of continued education and upskilling for those cybersecurity teams that are going to be using those products. So as more cybersecurity people come onto my client's team, they automatically have a piece of their onboarding that gives them in-depth, very personalized training on how to use the tools that are already in place. And that's the difference between just putting products in place and selling and being a strategic seller of cybersecurity products and professional services.
Wow, that's such an important point. I think with so many relationships that we encounter in the professional space in cybersecurity, it's someone wants to sell you a product or someone wants to sell you a service. But not a lot of companies do very well at blending those pieces. And what's even more interesting about what you just explained is you're not only selling the service and the product, but you're connecting people with the same types of issues or the same types of challenges, right, and giving them an opportunity to talk and network amongst themselves. And that brings that much more success to the table, right? I love that you call it the human API, because in your description, I can see that. And what a great description of what you do, right? And I would imagine at the end of the day, the customers for SecureNation walk away and they feel like they got more than just a product, more than just a spot solution. They get a holistic program that is going to help them be successful over the long term. Is that an accurate reflection of the work?
It is. And that, I mean, even just the approach that we have as providing these services or assisting our clients in this way is strategic in itself, because I don't want to, we're a smaller company. Okay. There's only a handful of us, which means that every minute and every second counts even that much more. Right. So if I spend, I don't know, let's say 10 hours working this week on a project with a client, right? I cannot invest 10 hours of that time with that client and then have them not renew next year because of buyer's remorse, because it didn't fit correctly, because the integration fell apart, because onboarding sucks, because, right? Because it has to be seamless. It has to be done right, because I don't have the time to go back and fix it. And they don't either. And they don't want to. They want to put something in place that's going to stand the test of time, have the longevity involved, and not something that's going to fall to the wayside because of, you know, maybe they're a great company and they promote very quickly out of, you know, the people that are actually managing these tools. Well, now you've got new people coming in. What if they don't understand that tool? Right?
Sure.
You want them to be able to wield it just as well as the person before and not put all of the weight of that training on the individual that was there previously, right? They have things to look forward to, like their next role. They need to train for that role instead of going back and doing this other stuff. Whenever there are some wonderful vendor partners out there that will totally do these things for free because they also want you to love their product and stick with it and be able to fine tune it so that it fits perfectly. And that's kind of the idea and the mission behind making sure it's done right the first time.
You use the term, I think it was vendor relationships. I use the term partnerships.
Yep.
And for most of my career, when I look at these value-added resellers, I hate to use that term, but I will for the sake of the discussion.
Okay.
When I do business with them, I don't want to just buy one product. I need to establish a trust relationship at the beginning. I need to know that you're in it for more than just that spot sale.
Right.
And I look at these partners as an extension of my team. Many of us in information security and compliance have limited size teams.
Right.
And thus we have limited capabilities to fulfill all of the needs of our organization. So these partnerships are supremely important. I don't want to do a lot of partnership churn because that means I have to spend the 10 or 20 hours on the phone or going to lunch or having long conversations to explain what the business is doing, what our goals are, what's important to the organization,
Right.
what our buying cycles look like. I want that all established so I have a long-term partnership. I want partners bringing stuff to the table that have value and meaning to me and the company that I'm working for.
Right.
So this human API element is, I mean, it's excellent. And when you're a smaller firm, a boutique firm, and I don't want to classify SecureNation as one, but it's very important that relationship is built and maintained. And I like the fact that as a team may transition, that you're covering that part, that aspect as well. So there's no drop off. What do you hear from the customers that you build these relationships with? I mean, they must give you some feedback on the relationship they have with you.
Well, and it's not just given, right? I ask for it continuously on every step of the way, especially built. So for example, we just got back from, and when I say we, I mean I just realized it was just me. I just got back from Cactus Con a few weeks ago. That was in Mesa, Arizona, which is part of Phoenix. I didn't know that when I went there, but hey, learn something new every day. And we got to hang out with a client that was prospective client kind of situation, someone I really liked. And I get to pick out my own clients. I'm so spoiled. So every day I go to work, I work with people that either are my best friends or on their way to being my best friends. And these are the kind of people that if they lived near me, I would invite them to my kids' birthday parties. They probably would say, no, thank you. But you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Kind of situation. Like they would 100% be the folks I would invite over on the weekend to have a, backyard barbecue. But anyhow, we picked up a new client, and a part of that process, especially in the beginning for me personally, is ensuring every step of the way that the experience is tailored to something that they find valuable, right? And it's down to the nitpickiest stuff at first, where I'm like, which channels are your preferred communication channels? Do you prefer email? Do you prefer text? Do you prefer signal messaging? Do you prefer a phone call? Like, how would you like for this communication style to go? And if they're like, no, not sure, right? I'll try it out in a couple of different ways, usually going to email first. But if they notice and I notice that I need feedback from them on, well, let's set up this schedule or demo or anything like that, then I'll start kind of pinging them a little bit on text, see what's up. And then I set that and move forward with it. So, and it's also something that like, I just sent out a couple of summaries. I do those on, again, according to however it is that our clients want to do that. So sometimes it's frequently Mondays and Wednesdays for some reason. But one of the ones that I sent out to the new client was on a Wednesday. And I made sure that at the end of the summary, once they received it, that I put a note, if there are any adjustments or anything you'd like to change, see more of or less of in this summary on where we stand with all these projects, please let me know. I got lucky. They happened to love it. So that worked out really nice. But I hate long emails, right? I absolutely hate long emails. We're helping the B-Sides NOLA organizers onboard maybe a few more vendors to sponsor the event, right? And you know how important B-Sides are, right? They're great for just community learning, networking, having some really great, interesting research topics. I like the B-Sides so much because they feel, vendors are important, right? I'm in charge of vendor relationships. Like that's my thing. That's one of my passions, is kind of having this weird counseling ability between clients and their vendors. But I really just, I sit through demos and sales all day long in my job,
Right.
which is great. My brain is ready to learn those technologies. But when I go to conference, I want to see something dynamic and surprising and exciting. And I want to learn whatever it is that somebody's been working on for a year, building, out on their GitHub, like, or some new way to automate something, or a new way that there's, something can be attacked, or just anything like that. Those are the kind of talks that I really enjoy going to. Those are my favorites. And if I've never seen that speaker before, those are the ones I go see first. And B-Sides is great for that. I've been helping out the founders or the organizers of the conference here in New Orleans find some new vendor partners for sponsorship. And it's been a thing. So they have they're very organized people. Okay. And they have a spreadsheet. And I don't like spreadsheets, but anyway, they have a spreadsheet. And the first thing I did was threw that spreadsheet out and made my own. That's terrible, right? It's terrible. That's mean. I should have worked with theirs.
Someone who doesn't like spreadsheets, but then made their own spreadsheet.
I did. Well, and the thing is if that's their preferred communication style, I got to get along.
That's right. Good
right.
point.
If that's how they're going to ingest this information, then it's important for me to fit into that a little bit, right? To adjust my communication style so that it is fitting for the people I'm serving. And I do that frequently, from one thing to another. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's, doing something volunteer style like this. Oh man, speaking of volunteer, I just got brought in to be a board member for my local ISACA chapter again. And
Congratulations.
Thanks. And I say it like that because I wasn't aware that was what was going to happen. And I went back through the email threads and it still was not clear. They asked me to moderate an event that's coming up in our local area. And I was really excited. Of course, I'd love to help. I'd love to help you out, right? It's ISACA. You guys do great things. I got to this board meeting and they were like, everybody meet our newest board member, Rachel Arnold. And I was like, you sneaky Pete's.
I think the term is voluntold.
You sneaky Pete's. But I'm 100% on it. And they've got like, a huge group text. I'm not a fan of group text, but I group text now,
Nice.
You gotta go to where the people are, go to where you can help and adjust your communication style accordingly.
Well, that's critical. I mean, you've added so much here. I'm going to start with that communication piece, right? Because I was asked the other day by some team members, like, what is one of the soft skills that you use? And I said, it's communication, but it's differentiated communication, which for those who don't know how that term differentiated factors in, it's actually what you said, meeting people where they're at. If they're texters, you text them. If they're emailers, you email them. If they're voice people, you get on a Teams call or you pick up the phone and you call them, and you continue to do that. And if they're not understanding in one format, right? So let's say you respond to an email and they're just not getting it, then you pick up the phone because they need a different way of receiving your message. So it's great that you're attuned to what people desire in order to achieve a level of satisfaction in their interactions with you, right?
Right. Well, I'm a people pleaser, probably for really horrific childhood trauma reasons, but I've embraced it as an adult as I cope and heal, just like most of us, right? And I get the most satisfaction out of a good customer experience. I really do. And it's been that way across the different industries that I've worked in, right? I've not always been in cybersecurity. I got here as a midlife crisis. I don't know what it was, but that's how I got here was, in my early 30s, some things changed. So I changed, right? I adjusted, moved on, and really seeing the joy that I can bring to some, and I know that sounds so cliche. I really do. But walking away from an interaction with another human being and knowing that I have somehow improved or brought them a little more hope or made their day a little nicer makes me feel great.
Yes.
Like that is the greatest hit of dopamine. And it might be selfish, I guess, if you look at it that way, that the only reason I'm nice to other people is so that I feel nice about myself.
I bet if I push you on that, that's not why. It's because you want to make a difference, and you are making a difference, and people see that in you. That's why you're being asked to do so much in the community, like B-Sides or ISACA. It's because it's authentic what you're giving. It's not to get something back. It's okay if we get the gift of feeling good because we do it, but you're giving first, right?
I don't get, you're right. I don't get anything else other than that. There's not a lot else other, like it's nice. And I especially am very careful whenever it comes to like my client interactions, because the reason I'm working with them is because I like them so much. And I don't want them to stop working with me because it's real hard to find people I like that much.
That's fair.
Not everybody is, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and not it, right? Like that's magic when that happens. Whenever, you've got those friends that you enjoy seeing for years and years and years.
That's true. I think everyone who's not in the InfoSec community thinks we are all just best friends and pals and everything. But it's just like every other group. There's people that you like, and there's people that you're great, you're knowledgeable. We're just not compatible. We're like sandpaper for each other.
Those are the people that I'm always happy to read their write-ups or watch their talk or support them in other ways.
Yeah.
But I'm not inviting you to dinner. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. And I'm sure there's other people in the community that feel the same way about me. And that goes across different communities, right? And that's one of the things I think we as people need to be cognizant of, is that don't box us all up, because none of us fits in one box and none of us wants to be in one box. So finding your people wherever they are is important, and supporting them in the way that you do is important. That's what builds community. That's what changes the culture of society. So there's a philosophy in Buddhism that we're all a wave, but we're all part of the ocean. So in your way, you're talking about, sometimes seeing yourself as a wave, but you're part of the ocean, and you are part of the energy of the ocean, and you don't stand alone, and the ocean doesn't stand without you. So I'm going off on a little tangent here, but I think it's important
I like
to understand that when you give of yourself, it spreads beyond where you think it spreads. So, and in the way that you're doing it, both professionally and personally, it's beautiful. It's a good blending of who you are and being authentic, which I think at the end of the day, we are all striving to be authentic and accepted. So it's great how open you are with people, regardless of them being clients or friends in the professional community.
One of the things I've noticed that a lot of people struggle, and I struggled with it too, was you hear this, well, for a good work-life balance, right, there should be a separation between your personal and your professional, which I still feel is true in a lot of ways. But you have to adjust how you apply that so that you do show up genuinely every day to whatever your 9 to 5 is, right? For example, I've known a lot of folks that have burnt out because they blurred that line between professional and personal, and they're up, still answering Slack and Teams and email and, different professional social media type things at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And you're like, you need to slow down. You're going to notice this is going to hurt soon. Your brain's going to explode, or you're going to look up one day and you're going to be like, I don't know who I am without, for our purposes, without cybersecurity. I don't know what I like. I have no idea. I have no hobbies, right? Or I have no outside interest. And what's great is I can always see the people that have struggled and then come out of it, because they seem to have the collection of hobbies that are the most non-tech at all. Like, I know a president of a cybersecurity company did blacksmithing on the weekends. I was like,
I love that.
I was like, so you have like a forge in your backyard? They were like, absolutely, I do. And I built the forge myself. I was like, that's really cool. Please send pictures. Right. I know I see some other folks that do crocheting, or I like plants. How non-technical can you get? Like,
look behind me. For those of you who aren't on video, my office is full of plants. My whole house is full of plants.
Yeah.
My whole side business is all about a plant theme to go along with cybersecurity. So yeah, I love plants.
Yes. And there's just something so lovely about working in dirt and getting unplugged and having that time away. And it's, I don't know, whenever I'm playing with green things, I feel like my brain is quiet for a minute. I don't know. Maybe that's also probably very cliche, but I feel like this peace and this calm kind of comes over me whenever I'm doing gardening stuff. So I need it.
Cliche. Yeah, for me, that it's about getting back to the basics. That's why I love to hike. Like, I can go on a hike that's supposed to be, I don't know, let's say an hour to do it, and it will take me 2 or 3 hours because I am like playing with the plants and going off the trail a little bit, just a little bit, people.
Right. No, like safety first, but
but I'm bringing my binoculars and I'm checking out the hawks and the eagles, and I'll be quietly standing there to see what animals are out there, because for me, it's getting back to what life is all about, at its core. Something I want to go back to and touch upon is that you talked about people who their work is their whole life. And I think in the last few years, we've had a lot of people that was their life. And then all of a sudden that life was ripped away from them. And it's a trauma event for them. I've been in that position before where my job was taken away.
Yeah.
And the shock and the adjustment period is so strange, because you get up and there's no email to check. There's no one to text. There's no responsibility. But the beautiful thing, once you get past that first 12, 24 hours, there's no pressure.
Right.
There is no pressure.
I've done it too. I've had the same thing happen. Exactly. That initial shot, like this vacuum, it feels like your whole soul is being sucked out of your body, because you're like, oh, what now? Because your brain was rolling down all these checklists and you were on this path that was very well controlled. And you get up the next day and it's like, oh, who am I? Like, you forget how to brush your teeth because there's no email to check while you're brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Like, it's very strange. And so having some of those hobbies and having that kind of a balance where you do have something that is just yours. It's you keep yourself intact. But part of being able to blur that line, for me at least, successfully showing up genuinely as my personal self in my professional life, I will talk to Jess about plants. Right.
Right.
I will bring that into the conversation. I have swapped cuttings and seeds with other people. It's,
I've not done that, but I should do that.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun whenever you start. Or you know what, though? You got to be careful. Guard yourself a little bit, because if you kill the thing that your friend gave you, there's like this guilt level that happens. That
you put a
may not
disclaimer. Right. You have to put a disclaimer at the beginning saying, I thank you for this gift. I may kill it, but please don't take it personally.
Exactly.
Well, I better knock on wood. I've been lucky in that the plants that I have, I'm a fairly good caretaker of, but I think that has to do with the room. And then I have a secret ingredient, which I'm not going to share here. If people want to know what it is, you have to subscribe to the podcast, and then maybe I will tell you what my secret ingredient is to keep my plants looking healthy.
You got to tell me later, because I already subscribed, Jess.
I will tell you. I'll put it in the newsletter.
Okay, good. Yeah, make sure you put it in there, because I'm going to be taking notes on some stuff. But if you don't have that piece of your personality still in tow, right? You show up to work at least 40 hours a week. So are you telling me for 40 hours a week you're not being yourself? That's horrible. That's horrible. How awful for you. Either that, or maybe you should get into theater because you're really good at developing characters. But like, how awful for you to show up 40 plus hours a week as somebody else. I don't understand how people don't show up as their authentic selves every day, every minute. And also, on the flip side of that, the only difference between me professionally and personally is the subject. It's the subject matter. That's it. It's just a context thing. The context that I speak in at work is work related, cybersecurity related, right? But those aren't the kind of conversations that I can go and easily have with, my parents.
Right.
I try. We go through it. They definitely call me whenever they've locked themselves out of their Humana account. Yeah. They get me to help.
So every week they're calling you.
Yeah. It's often. Right. Or friends or neighbors, they'll come to me, or my husband, right? My husband also works in cybersecurity. It's a running joke that they call us to fix their printers. Kind of thing.
Hey, I want to announce to all relatives, we hate printers as much as you do. Just don't buy them. So we have to come fix them.
The only difference between anybody else and me is that I can follow instructions without getting upset. I like instructions. I'm interested. Like, I'm that nerd. I will read privacy policies. Like, I like lists and being able to follow them step by step. I'm also a pretty good cook because of that. So you guys want to swap out some cuttings? I'll make you some banana bread and begrudgingly fix your printer. Please don't call me for your printer though. But it's, my husband's a principal / lead security analyst. And they're like, can you fix my printer?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, that's a help desk thing. Come on.
Oh, I don't know. I guess there's pros and cons to it. I like that the family still believes in my technical skills, which I try to keep up on, which, as in the position I fill now, it's a little more challenging because it's more of a leadership role. But
Right.
I want to go back to something you said about people showing up authentically as themselves. I do have an opinion on that. I think it's when people are working in an environment that they don't feel that they're trusted or that they're safe, it's very hard for them to show up authentically. And we see that, I think, in how successful those groups are. It's a reflection on the leadership. It's a reflection on the organization. And I think if you were to go and say interview or talk to someone who works at those companies, they would give you the real picture of what working in that organization is like. I think a lot of people find themselves trapped in those organizations and they don't know how to escape it, or they've been in those organizations throughout their entire career. So they think that's how information security and compliance is supposed to be. And it's not. Those of us who have escaped those types of environments and have found themselves in safe, trustworthy, supportive environments know there's a better way to do it. And that's what feeds us to go to work and really excel. I feel sorry for people that are trapped in those circumstances. But how do you influence that? I think it's what we're doing now. We have conversations about authenticity, about showing up as our whole self. And then those of us that are doing that have to set that example and say, there is a better way to do it. You can have feelings as a leader. You're not supposed to be devoid of feelings.
Right.
Your job as a leader is to be there, one, to complete the mission of the organization, but two, to take care of the people.
Right.
That to me is, and they're very close together for me. I am all about, training for the staff, showing who I am, admitting to my mistakes and saying sorry so that they know they can make mistakes and apologize. It's important for me for the team to know that there's a person that has their life, because you have their livelihoods in your hands, that it's someone trustworthy that they can rely upon, and they can come to me when they're in a bind, because they won't always be in a bind in their work. They may be in a bind in their personal lives.
Oh yeah.
And they need to find a way to navigate both of those.
Right.
Things.
And how often is it that people experiencing some hardships in their personal life that comes to work with them? I know you're supposed to leave it at the door, but I can't forget for 8-9 hours a day that, like, my dad needs help because he's sick. I can't forget that I have 3 little kids in school that their teacher could call at any time. And I mean, all 3 of them are neurodiverse. It's better now that they're older, but when they were younger, I did get phone calls that one of my kids was having like a nonverbal episode where they had just shut down and the teachers were scared, kind of thing, because they were just 1,000-mile stare. The teachers weren't sure what they had done to trigger it, and kind of thing, and mommy has to go, or mommy or daddy has to go and fix it. Like, I can't forget those things. Those are part of me. Now, does that mean that because I'm thinking about those things, I can't also divide off a part of myself to focus on the task at hand? Yeah, but it helps a whole hell of a lot whenever I have a leader or a mentor or a coworker or a teammate that can commiserate on those things with me, right? I don't need you to fix it for me. I just need you to listen. That's it. and tell me about a time that you could relate to me, so that I know that on top of already worrying about these things, I also don't have to feel an anxiety about the anxiety, right? That it doesn't pile on. And I've been in environments where I think that that's very well done by the leadership. SecureNation is a great example of that. Our fearless leader and CEO, John Davis, and our COO, Kim McCarty, every day, every morning, we banter a bit in our Teams chats and talk about what kind of things are looking out today. You know, John's got a bunch of kids that he's got to take care of too, and I do. And you know, sometimes our kids drive us crazy, and sometimes we're just like, oh, and we'll share pictures with each other about, you know, some stupid thing that the kids have done.
Exactly. And those are great things to celebrate, right? We should
Yeah.
be celebrating that, hey, you're a whole person. You have a family. You do things outside of work. You're successful in doing those things. That's great. Those commonalities that we share, those events that we, you know, amplify and say, that's great. That's, I think, makes teams so much stronger. But it's also about empowering staff. And I think a lot of companies are afraid of that. You know, that's why people don't want universal healthcare, or that's why companies don't want universal healthcare, right? Because it gives you a little bit of freedom. You're not so tied to that company.
Right.
They don't want to have you have a personal life, because then they might have to give you some support, which they call accommodations for that. What is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I found? I have almost 30-ish years in technology, right? When I took my hands off the staff, when I gave flexibility to the team, when I supported everything they did, that came back over and over and over again, amplified.
Right.
And I didn't do it because I wanted something back. I did it because I wanted them to be happy. I just, you know, it's been a long time since I took psychology courses, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you satisfy those, right? I think all of us learned that in school. You satisfy those basic needs, people take off. That is the difference between where humanity was thousands of years ago and now, is those needs got met and then people flourish. Why do we want to take that away? I don't know. It's counter to everything we have learned. And as people and as an advancing society, we should be moving in a forward, growing, open-minded direction, and not pointing back and saying, well, those were the good old days. They weren't good for everybody.
No.
They were good for very few people. So, you know, in our own little ways that bring authenticity, that making room for mistakes, that supporting people's lives outside of work is super important for creating not just a better work environment, but a better society as a whole.
Oh, definitely agree. I know I was not the most polite person whenever I was thrust into a toxic environment to everyone around me, right? It's that ripple effect, right? I'm the drop in the pond and I make the ripples ripple. If I'm having a bad day, the ripples are bad, right? They spread out. So if I'm having a great day, and I mean, yeah, of course you control your own destiny a lot in those situations, but there's only so much you can do whenever you're thrust into a negative environment, you know, to remain positive. I feel like I am a very positive, optimistic person. I was not positive nor optimistic at some points during my career in different industries, even, right? And those were not the times when I flourished. Those were not the times when the teams that I managed did well or had high sales or great customer feedback or anything else. Whenever, just like you said, whenever those top needs are met, you back away, right? Set it down, watch it go, because it's going to go and be an amazing light for the face of your company. One, if they're interacting with, you know, customers or other businesses. Two, they're going to be great little productive things because all of those needs are being met. And you're right. I don't understand. Maybe it's a lack of education at the top. And for all those listening in, yes, I really did just call the whole like C-suite kind of dumb. Sorry, it can be true in toxic environments. They're pretty stupid. And it's a fear of other people figuring out how unintelligent they are. they make everyone else scared because they're scared. Hurt people every time. It's just a fact. Think about it in every one of your interactions. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be on a micro or a macro level, right? Think about every time someone hurt you emotionally, physically, professionally, financially. It's because they were hurting first and they just spread it. That's it. And the type of people that do that have not taken the time to be introspective. They have not taken the time to, I don't know, journal. Like, write your feelings down before you accidentally weaponize the wrong ones somewhere else, right? Like, let's not do that. But why not weaponize optimism and a positive outlook? It's really great. I think everybody should do it.
It is. It's. I love the point you just brought up, because in Buddhism we call that suffering, right? And everyone suffers in some way. A lot of people don't know they're suffering. They don't understand it. And exactly like you said, the way they think they alleviate that suffering is to make someone else suffer with them.
Right.
Whether it's intentional or unintentional. And it's, I think we're seeing that amplified right now, at least in the United States, right? And it's confusing to a lot of people. Those people that are not like that, they understand their suffering. They're very, attached to other people. They're very magnanimous. They're very loving. They have empathy. It's scary, and it doesn't make sense to those people. But we need to take a step back and take a breath and realize that not everyone has had our lived experience. Some people have had very different experiences. They've had trauma in their own way, and they don't know how to navigate that. And sometimes when someone shows up and says, "Oh, I can show you the way to do that," it's to point my fingers over here and over here and over here and point to the problems. It's not you, it's them. That to your point is that leadership that hurts and doesn't understand productive ways to deal with that, isn't introspective, doesn't go to therapy because they think therapy is not appropriate for healthy people. Just for the record, I do it. I think I'm healthy, and I think I'm relatively normal. People may argue with that. I think everyone should have that as a basic healthcare need that's fulfilled.
I mean, just to keep showing up whenever you ask me to. It's because you're a great human. So you're doing well.
I try. At the end of the day, and I shared this with my kids. We come into this world, whether we want to or not, we should leave this world in a better place than we found it. And it doesn't it doesn't require giant strides. It just can be little steps. There's a saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step, right? So you can cover great distances if you're just taking the little steps that you need to take. And maybe that's all you can take. Maybe your plate is so full at the end of the day that the only thing you can do is maybe turn to your spouse and say, "I love you and I appreciate you." Or you say it to someone you work with. "I really appreciate what you did today. It helped me in these different ways." Little things that are meaningful, that are truthful, that change the current, right? And we need to be doing that. In a world that right now seems to be in total chaos and off the rails, we can still look forward, and we can still make these I don't know what the opposite of microaggressions would be, but micro rebellions, I guess, to change things in a more positive way. So.
Yeah. Microaggressive optimism? No. Yes. I don't know.
We'll figure it out, and I'll post it in the notes. We're winding down. This has been great. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity here before we close out to plug whatever you want to plug. So you have like 30 seconds. Go for it.
Excellent. Thank you, Jess, for having me on. I'm going to plug your show. If you're listening to it and you found it, find it again. Do it again. So go subscribe. Second of all, I also host a live stream on a weekly basis, normally on Fridays in the middle of the day, called the Coffee Table Talks. You can look me up on YouTube at The Human API, all one word, or you can look me up on LinkedIn and go follow that SecureNation page for stream updates. So we have a guest on this week, Cassidy Trond from Tech Systems. She's going to be awesome, and we're looking forward to having her.
Everyone go check it out. Rachel, thank you. We'll have you on again because this was a great conversation. Everyone go support Rachel. Go out there. Be good people. Have a good day. Rachel, thank you again.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Voices of the Vigilant. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe and leave a review in your favorite podcast app. For a copy of the transcript, to follow Jess, to apply as a guest of the show, or to learn more about services from Vigilant Violet, please visit vigilantviolet.com. Until next time, stay vigilant.